So today I'm going to be talking about how genealogy websites are being used to help solve crimes. And I'm going to be discussing how these genealogy websites work, crimes that have been solved using these genealogy websites, and if using DNA from these websites is an invasion of privacy. So if you've never used any of these genealogy websites, I've used Ancestry.com, and basically what you do is you get a kit, you fill a tube with your saliva, and you send it in, and they send you back results on your nationality, where your ancestors are from, distant relatives, and stuff like that. And this is really huge in solving crimes because DNA evidence used to only be useful if the suspect's DNA was already in a criminal database. And if it wasn't, there was no way to match DNA from a crime scene with anyone. And the first case I'm going to talk about, and probably the biggest one that was solved using a genealogy website, is the Golden State Killer. The Golden State Killer was responsible for at least 13 murders as well as rapes and hundreds of burglaries from the years 1974 to 1986. And they were never able to solve this case until April of 2018. And how they did it is they took DNA from an old crime scene and built a DNA profile, and they put it into a genealogy website, which was Ancestry.com, and it came back with distant relatives of Joseph DeAngelo. So once DeAngelo was a suspect, they then had to match his DNA with the DNA from an old crime scene. And how they did this is they followed him when he went into a food store, and they took his DNA off of his car door handle, and they also got a second sample of his DNA from a used tissue that was in his trash outside of his house. And they were able to confirm that Joseph DeAngelo's DNA matched the DNA from an old crime scene, and they were able to arrest him and charge him with 12 counts of murder. The second case I'm going to talk about is one of a Harvard student, Jane Britton. She was murdered in her bed in 2018, so last year was actually the 50-year anniversary of this case, and it had never been able to be solved until last year. And how they did this was they took DNA that was found on her body at the crime scene, they put it into a genealogy website, and it came back with relatives of Michael Sempler. So they were able to determine that Michael Sempler was responsible for Jane Britton's murder, but they were unable to charge him because he had died in 2001. And the last case I'm going to talk about is a double homicide that happened in 1987. And they solved this the same way they solved the other two. They took DNA from an old crime scene, they put it into a genealogy website, and it came back with second cousins of William Talbot. So once William Talbot was a suspect, investigators got a paper cup that he threw in the trash, took a sample of his DNA from the paper cup, and it matched the DNA from the crime scene, and he was arrested and charged with the double homicide. So now this brings up a question of if using these genealogy websites is an invasion of privacy. I know that 23andMe, which is a genealogy website, actually does not. They have set up privacy laws that don't allow authorities to access information from their database. And in my opinion, I don't think it's an invasion of privacy. I think people are willingly and knowingly putting their DNA onto databases like this, and I know genealogy websites like Ancestry.com and their guidelines actually tell people that their DNA could be used in situations like this to solve crimes and stuff, so I don't personally think it's an invasion of privacy. And yeah, thank you for listening.